Alright, this is a video from Mr. B. Sorry I couldn't be there today, guys. Had some stuff to take care of. But this is lesson 7.5, and we're going to talk about properties of angles. Okay, so quite a bit of vocabulary going on. First thing that we're going to talk about today is, or are these things called adjacent angles. So adjacent angles are two angles with a common side and the same vertex. So if I were to take this thing and take another thing right here, and I were to call this A, B, C, and D. Angle ABD and angle DBC are adjacent angles. Okay. Doesn't always have to be a straight line too. It could be something like this. Okay. And we can call this angle 1, angle 2, and these guys, angle 1 is also adjacent to angle 2. So angle 1, angle 1 is adjacent to angle 2. Okay? So that's adjacent angles. Okay. Another thing called vertical angles. Vertical angles are two angles whose sides are opposite rays. Okay. So you take a couple things. We'll call this guy A. We'll call this out here B, C, D, and E. Actually, it'd probably be better just to name these by a number. So here's 1, here's 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Notice that line DA, if you continue line DA, it ends up becoming line AB. And line EA, sports, it's in the game, EA added on to AC, those form a continuous line. So therefore, angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles. Also, angle 2 and angle 4 are vertical. Really important property about vertical angles. Vertical angles are equal. Okay, it's really important in an equation because you might have something that's like angle 2 equals 2x plus 1 and angle 4 equals 4x minus 7, and they'll be like solve. Oh, they'll also say Angle 2 is vertical. To angle 4. So if they say vertical, you should be like, oh, vertical. That means equal. So you just set up your equation. You got 2x plus 1 is equal to 4x minus 7. And then we just solve it out and we're all happy and we're good to go. So just be aware that's how you set it up. Okay. Another thing is complementary. Complementary angles. They are angles that add up to 90 degrees. Mwahaha. That's how I make sure I draw a right angle. Okay. So if you were to cut this up, and over here we'd have angle 1 and angle 2. Okay. Angle 1 plus angle 2 is equal to 90 degrees. So if we said that angle 1 was 2x minus 5, and this angle over here was the 3x plus 10, you'd say, oh, okay, so 2x minus 5 plus 3x plus 10 equals 90 degrees. That's how complementary works. It's that simple. Okay. Additionally, we have these things called supplementary angles. And those are angles that add to 180 degrees. And coincidentally, if they add to be 180 degrees, they also form a straight angle. Because a straight angle is 180 degrees. Vocabulary, don't forget it. Okay, so here's angle 1, here's angle 2. Okay. You say angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees. You see the word supplementary? That means set it equal to 180. If you see complementary, set it equal to 90. Here's how you remember which one goes with which. What number comes first in the number line? 90 or 180? Which one comes first? You better say 90. So 90 comes first. And what letter comes first in the alphabet? The letter C or the letter S? Well, C comes first, so the 90 degrees is complementary. And the 180 comes second, so that means that's the supplementary one. Okay, so that's how you know. Okay, so just by looking at the pictures, it's safe to make some assumptions. So here are some safe assumptions that you can make. Okay, just by looking at the diagram. Okay, one of them is you can assume the angles are adjacent just by looking at the diagram. Okay, they're just angles that are right next to each other. You can assume that when you see a straight line that they are supplementary. So that means they add to 180. And you can also safely assume vertical angles if you see opposite rays. Certain things that are not safe to assume. Just by looking at a diagram. You can't ever assume that angles are congruent or equal. You just can't assume it. It has to be explicitly given to you that they're equal. The only time that you can say or assume that angles are congruent or equal is if they are vertical angles. If they are vertical angles, then you can say they're equal. But you have to have that vertical first. Okay. Another thing is that an angle is 90 degrees. You cannot assume that either. You also cannot assume that angles are complementary. Just doesn't work. A little bit more vocabulary. A linear pair are adjacent angles that add to 180 degrees. Okay. So if you see something like this, and they're like, okay, here's angle 1, here's angle 2, and you're just like, oh, is that a linear pair? And you say, yes, angle 1 and angle 2 are a linear pair. Okay, last thing. If you see the word angle bisector, remember, bisect is where you cut them in half. An angle bisector, okay, cuts an angle into two congruent angles. And this goes back to the whole Jimmy John's example. You know, who gets half the sandwich? Who has the bigger half? Well, you should both have equal halves. A bisector cuts things into two equal congruent angles. So an example of this would be like ray AB bisects angle AD. Solve for x and find angle we need to call this CAD, sure. Find angle CAB. Alright, so first off, let's put an angle out there. Okay, beautiful. We're going to call this CAD. Okay. And they said AB bisects the angle. So AB, which is coming out this way, is cutting these into two equal parts. So if they say that this is 3x plus 1, and this one over here is 2x minus 3, you say, oh, I see the word bisect. That means that I have equal angles. So I go 3x plus 1 equals 2x minus 3. I subtract 2x from both sides. I subtract 1 from both sides. And I get that x equals -4. I should probably change this problem up. I didn't think this up clearly. Sorry. Make that a +3. Yeah. So that means you've got angle x equals 2. And CAB is 3x plus 1. So I say, okay, 3 times 2 plus 1. Angle CAB is equal to 7 degrees. Now, I know 7 degrees isn't a lot at the first second. You know, I saw that this was going to be a negative answer, and you can't have negative angles, just like you can't have negative distance. So just be aware of that. And I know that this is a really small angle, like it's really teeny tiny, but just bear with me. That's just an example. So, behave today. Make sure you do your schoolwork, get it done. It'll be collected, and I will see you guys on block day. Bye bye.